Hi there, I'm Jeff Price from Metropolitan State University of Denver, Department of Aviation Aerospace Science, and also the lead author of Practical Aviation Security, Predicting and Preventing Future Threats. The things are happening very rapidly right now. I just want to get this quick YouTube clip uploaded so that you can have some general perspectives on things that are happening in Brussels and what we can expect here in the United States. So this is very impromptu, so forgive me if it rambles just a little bit, but I'll try and hit the highlights for you. Essentially, the situation continues to develop and we continue to get more information as to what's going on. But what we seem to know right now is that there's been 2 explosions in the Brussels airport. Don't know if that's a suicide bomber or if those bombs were left behind, but that they did occur in the public area and that there are many casualties and many people injured. So some natural questions that have already been coming out. One, is this representing a shift in attacks from airline bombings, airline hijackings to more softer targets, which are the public areas of airports? Possibly. The terrorists are still continuing to be interested in bombings of airlines. We've seen that just in the past few years. We've seen several attempts at bombings post 9/11 of US aircraft. So I don't think that's really gone away. But obviously softer targets are starting to be considered. And the airport, unfortunately, the public areas have always represented a softer target simply because it's prior to the screening process. So we don't know what a person has as they approach a screening checkpoint. But frankly, we don't know what a person has when they walk into a shopping mall either, because we're not establishing checkpoints at shopping malls as well. So the first question that comes as a result of the screening checkpoint or the ticketing area is, well, why don't we just move those? So we start screening people before they get into the building. All you've really done at that point is relocated the problem, because the bomber's intent is to detonate that where a lot of people are getting together. That's going to be checkpoints or ticketing areas. If you relocate that checkpoint, all you've done is relocate the location that can occur. Some airports can possibly add additional areas for doing checkpoints or additional screening. Some just already have that in the nature of their design, so that does spread out the crowd a little bit. A lot of airports, though, have pre-9/11 designs and really weren't designed for spreading out people throughout a screening area. They're really designed for putting them all together to getting them through that process, getting them out to the airport. The other problem of pushing people all the way out to the curbside is now you put them in jeopardy of a vehicle bomb attack. So you've kind of increased the possibility of more devastation if you've not spread them out, as previously mentioned. So another question, what do they do different in the European Union versus what they do different in the United States? Oddly enough, the differences are pretty substantial, but it really kind of depends on what we're talking about. Everybody is supposed to adhere to the International Civil Aviation Organization. Annex 17 is what it's called, but it's their aviation security manual. So everyone's supposed to adhere to the international guidelines, the international regulations. Here in the United States, we have the TSA, which has its own body of regulations. In many cases, exceed what the ICAO standards call for. The European Union, similar type of operation over there, where each state or each country must meet the security requirements, and then you've got inspectors from each of those countries, just like we do here with the TSA, with the Transportation Security Inspector, that goes out to make sure that the airports and the airlines are following the proper security regulations and following their security programs. So that's kind of how the system works. The challenge is the level of compliance is here. If minimal compliance is here, then best practices can live anywhere around here. And each airport has to, maybe more accurately, each airport has to meet a minimum level of compliance. Anybody can go above that standard. And each inspector for that airport, from that airport's country, will decide whether the airport is compliant or not. But within this span, you're going to see, whichever context you want to use here, you're going to see a lot of different variables. So what's compliant could be very different than what's actually being carried out from airport to airport. So the policies are very similar, but you might see at one airport where they don't really screen check bags that well. But that same airport, you might see numerous deployed law enforcement in the public areas. You go to another airport and there's screening check bags at a different level, but you don't see as many police in the public areas. Both airports are probably compliant with the regulations. It's just that they've decided to address certain threats differently. So in terms of practice, there's a wide variety that you'll see at airports throughout both the United States and the European Union. Are they all compliant? Yeah, if they weren't, their regulatory agencies would not let them operate. It doesn't mean that they're always compliant, that there's not issues, that's always going to happen. But overall, if you're going to a commercial service airport in the United States or the European Union, it's met some level of compliance. Keep in mind that that has many meanings as to what that level is. So some of the other questions. What will the United States do in response? There's been some statements made by U.S. Policymakers that there will be some increases of airport security. So what's that mean? Well, we don't know yet. We're not really sure. The specific directives have really not gone out to everybody that delineate exactly what we're supposed to do. Typically, what you'll likely see is more deployed visible law enforcement in the public areas. You might see more canine. You might see more TSA personnel through those public areas. TSA does have a behavior detection officer workforce to look for suspicious individuals and try and notify law enforcement if there's an urgent situation. You might see higher levels of awareness from airport employees. But I think those are the main measures that you're probably going to see. And those are common measures. Those are common deterrent measures for deterring a bomber from that area of the airport, because the vast majority of bombers don't want to get caught before they're able to detonate their device. So they're going to naturally go to an area where there's not police officers, there's not uniformed personnel that are aware, that are looking for problems, because their chances are more likely to get caught before they get to their target area. Not to say it won't happen, but we're just talking odds here, and we're talking history. Also, it should be remembered that this is not without precedent. In 2010, the Moscow terminal building of the Domodedovo Airport was bombed in a similar type of attack, and we really didn't do anything as a response to that here in the United States. There were no directives issued to airports or anything, just kind of a general higher level of awareness. We've also seen this post and pre 9/11. We've seen it at airports in Pakistan, parking lot bombings in Madrid many years ago. So it's not without precedent, but this might, because of kind of the new threats that are out there today, this might signify more attacks of this nature. What's going to happen, what's already happening, is U.S. intelligence agencies are doing threat assessments, trying to determine really what's going on. Could this threat happen in the United States? What's the likelihood? And then they might issue some directives to airports to increase security levels at certain areas. Keep in mind, most airports already have these plans to increase security within their own security programs. So these are things that they can implement rather quickly. What can you do specifically as a traveler? Just stay aware. Have a healthy awareness of what's going on around you. Don't constantly be looking down here on the cell phone with no awareness of what's happening. If you don't feel something's right, let those spidey senses talk to you a little bit. Start looking for threats in the environment. If you see something that you don't like, move away from that area and notify law enforcement, notify somebody that can come check it out. Worst case, it's nothing, or best case, it's nothing, frankly. Worst case, it is something, and at least you were able to move out of the area, maybe get some others with you if you really think the threat level's that high, or you might have actually stopped an attack. So that's kind of where we're at right now with things and kind of where things are going. I'll try and continue to keep the blog site updated, and as I find out more information about how you can better protect yourself as part of the traveling public, we'll get more information out to you. Have a good day.